Ladies and gentlemen, if there is one secret that has the power to transform your life, your career, and your productivity, it is the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto Principle. The rule is simple, but profound. 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. Think about that for a moment. Out of everything you do in a day, only a handful of tasks are truly responsible for most of your progress, income, and success. I remember early in my career, I worked long hours, 10, sometimes 12 hours a day. I thought success was about working harder than anyone else, but I was exhausted and frustrated. Then I discovered the 80-20 rule, and I realized something shocking. Most of what I was doing didn't really matter. I was focusing on the trivial many, not the vital few. This realization was like putting on a new pair of glasses. Suddenly, I could see which clients mattered most, which activities moved me closer to my goals, and which tasks were distractions. The truth is, once you identify and consistently work on your 20%, your productivity doesn't just improve, it explodes. The rule is not about working more, but about working smart. And the beauty is, it applies to every area of your life. Let me tell you a story. When I was younger, I worked in sales. Like many beginners, I chased every lead. I thought if I spoke to enough people, someone would eventually buy. I spent my days running around, busy but broke. Then one of my mentors pulled me aside and said, "Brian, 20% of your clients will give you 80% of your sales. Focus on them." At first, it sounded too simple, but I tested it. I went back through my sales records and realized he was right. A small handful of clients accounted for most of my income. So instead of wasting time chasing small, uninterested buyers, I doubled down on my top clients, gave them my full attention, and sought out more like them. Within months, my income doubled. Within a year, it tripled. The lesson was clear: success doesn't come from doing more things. It comes from doing the right things. With focus, consistency, and discipline. That was my discovery, and it became the turning point of my career. The next step is learning how to identify your 20%. This is where most people struggle, because business feels like progress. But the truth is, being busy is often just a form of laziness. It allows you to avoid the hard work of thinking clearly about priorities. Here's a simple exercise I teach. Take out a blank sheet of paper and write down everything you do in a week. Then ask yourself, if I could only do one task on this list, which one would contribute the most to my success? That task is part of your 20%. Then ask, if I could only do two tasks, which would I choose? Repeat until you have a small handful of high-value activities. The rest, the phone scrolling, the endless meetings, the trivial chores, is the 80% that creates very little value. Successful people are relentless about focusing on their 20%. They say no to almost everything else. This is why they achieve more in a year than most people do in 10. But let's talk about the hidden cost of the 80%. Every minute you spend on low-value tasks is a minute stolen from high-value ones. Imagine a gardener who spends all his time watering weeds instead of flowers. The weeds grow strong while the flowers wither. That's what happens when you live in the 80%. The world today is full of distractions. Social media, endless notifications, trivial work. All of it gives the illusion of productivity, but in reality, it robs you of progress. The cost is not just lost time. It is lost opportunities, lost income, lost health, even lost happiness. Every successful person I've studied has mastered the discipline of focus. They understand that saying yes to the 20% means saying no to the 80%. If you don't, the 80% will consume your entire life, and you will wake up one day wondering why you worked so hard, but achieved so little. Here's a truth we often forget: time is the great equalizer. Every person on earth, rich or poor, young or old, has the same 24 hours in a day. The difference is not in the hours, but in how they are used. Some people invest their time in the 20% activities that produce wealth, growth, and happiness. Others waste their time on the 80% that produce stress, regret, and mediocrity. Time cannot be saved, only invested. Every minute you spend is a trade, and what you trade it for determines your future. When you respect the value of time, the 80-20 rule becomes your compass. It guides your choices. It helps you say no to the noise and yes to what truly matters. This is the secret of high achievers. They are not busier than others. They are simply more focused. Now, how do you apply the 8R20 rule in your daily life? Start each day with a simple question. What are the few tasks that will make the biggest difference today? Write them down. Focus on completing those before anything else. This is not easy. The 80% tasks are seductive. They are easy. They give quick satisfaction, but they rarely move you forward. The 20% tasks, on the other hand, are often difficult and uncomfortable. Making a tough call, finishing a big project, confronting a challenge. But they are also the ones that transform your life. Build the habit of doing your most important task first, every day. I call this eating the frog. Once you do, your confidence grows, your energy rises, and the rest of the day flows with momentum. This is how you live the 80-20 rule, not just as a theory, but as a daily practice. The 80-20 rule applies not just to work, but to relationships and learning as well. Think about your friends. A small handful give you the most joy, support, and growth. These are your 20%. The rest may be pleasant, but they do not shape your life in meaningful ways. Invest more in the relationships that truly matter. The same is true in learning. Out of all the books, courses, or videos you consume, a small number give you the insights that transform your thinking. Focus on depth, not breadth. Read the classics. Study the best. Master the fundamentals. A little concentrated wisdom is worth more than a mountain of scattered information. When you apply the 80-100-20 rule to relationships and learning, your personal growth accelerates. You surround yourself with positivity, and you fill your mind with powerful ideas that multiply over time. But none of this works unless you master the art of overcoming distractions. The world will always pull you toward the 80%. Emails, notifications, gossip, entertainment, all of it screams for your attention. But you must choose. High achievers are not superhuman. They simply practice the discipline of shutting out distractions. They turn off notifications. They schedule deep work time. They create environments where focus thrives. They protect their 20% like a treasure chest. The battle for productivity is the battle for attention. Win that battle and you win your future. Let me share a few real-life examples. Steve Jobs once said, "Focus is about saying no." When he returned to Apple, he cut dozens of projects and focused only on a handful that mattered. The result? The iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, and a company that changed the world. Warren Buffett applies the 80-20 rule to investing. He ignores thousands of opportunities and focuses only on a few companies he deeply understands. That focus made him one of the richest men alive. In my own life, I saw how a handful of books, mentors, and decisions shaped the majority of my success. The truth is, the 80-20 rule is not just a principle. It is a law of life. Those who embrace it rise. Those who ignore it struggle. And now, my friends, here is the call to action. Take control of your life by taking control of your focus. Starting today, make a list of all your tasks, projects, and relationships. Identify the top 20%, the few things that create the majority of your results. Then discipline yourself to give them your best energy, your best time, and your best effort. Say no to the rest. Refuse to waste your precious hours on things that don't matter. Time is short. Life is precious. You cannot afford to live in the 80%. If you commit to this rule, your productivity will soar, your stress will fall, your success will multiply, and one day you will look back and realize, and the 80-20 rule was the key that unlocked your maximum potential. Thank you.